Hey, I'm Bridgette, and this is my story. So a little bit of my story is when I was younger, I was raped for the first time at 6 years old by a family member. He was pretty much just respected and grew up to be a pastor. So in the family, it was swept under the rug. And my heart was swept under my heart too. So it was something that was never really dealt with in my family. As I began stuffing that even further inside of me, the only way I knew to let it out was I cut and I struggled with anorexia a lot. I dealt with depression and anxiety and just fears of being alone with any man at that point. And so because anything could happen, and so I had a lot of guards and walls and masks. It was me against the world, essentially. And as that began to become just my way of life, it pushed a lot of people away. And because of how I was dealing with it, nobody even knew I was struggling because I was in the church. And so I figured out how to play the game and cover up with a cardigan and that religious mask and walk in and say, yeah, I'm good. God is great and everything is wonderful. And then go home and curse the same God I had blessed 30 minutes ago in the church. And then in the summer of 2015, my family lost 23 close family and friends in one summer. Just a lot of death and grief that summer. And so just trauma, and it just piled on. And when you pile trauma on top of trauma on top of trauma, it has to go somewhere. And I did not have any type of healthy coping mechanism or anywhere healthy for it to go. And so my body began to deal with it physically. And I began and was diagnosed in 2016 with complex PTSD and with psychogenic non-epileptic seizures. And so that's how my body learned how to deal with trauma. And so that's, a little bit about my story and how what my journey with mental health has kind of led to, and where it kind of stems from. This is my favorite part of my story, so I'm gonna get pumped. I've known God my entire life, and I can give you all the answers about God. Like, if you want to have a theological conversation, we can sit down and we can debate theology, and we can talk about all of the ins and outs of Christianity, and I can give you the right answers. But in 2018, I got to meet Jesus Christ, and it was the coolest thing because I walked into a church in Fort Stockton, and I was madder than heck at God. And I had just had another friend pass away from brain cancer. And I walked in, I was ready to start throwing the chairs in the sanctuary. And I was going, God, if you are real, you better show up right now, because this is the last time I'm walking into a church. I'm done with you after this. He showed up that night. He showed up in full force. Some lady, and I cannot tell you her name. I cannot tell you what she looked like. I have never seen her again. She came up and she said, do you realize that you're not actually dying, that you've just forgotten how to live? And I was like, okay. But then we had gathered as a large group to pray out. And I'm just sitting there, and I'm forcefully holding people's hands. I don't even want to be in this prayer circle, but I'm doing it because everybody's doing it. And a dear friend of mine looked at me and he said, Bridgette, when do we get to say that enough is enough with you? We have watched you fight on your own for so long now. He said, when do we get to start fighting with you? When are you going to step aside and let people come and fight with you and let God fight with you? He said, enough is enough, because you have fought for so long on your own, and you feel like you have to keep fighting on your own. And he said, and you're tired and you're giving up. He said, you're ready to throw in the towel. And I was. I was ready to give it all up. And he went to war for me that night. And my church prayed over me that night. And as they were praying, my pastor, he just kept saying these phrases, and all I could hear was, you are healed, you are chosen, you are loved. You are healed, you are chosen, you are loved. And it just kept repeating and repeating and repeating. And if that's not Jesus Christ, I don't know what was. Like, I can't tell you. I can't tell you anything else other than that was Jesus meeting me in a moment of severe need. Because if he hadn't met me, I don't know what would have happened that night. Where he's brought me from then is down this road of healing, and not in a physical sense, and some days not in a mental sense, and some days not in an emotional sense. Some days it's still a hot mess. But it's this place of, I know that I'm not walking alone anymore. And I know that I can reach out to people, and I can reach out to God first and foremost and say, hey, like, I'm struggling. Like, there are some days that it is still a really big struggle where I can't do it. And I cannot do it on my own. And nor should I be able to. Like, none of us are called to be able to do it on our own. I think that's something that we all just need to get a little better about, is living life with people and living life connected. The church saw me when I was unseeable. And when I wanted to be unseeable, the church was like, no, you're still here and you're still valued. Grace specifically gave me a home. Grace gave me family. I am across the state from my biological family, but I am closer to the people here at Grace than I have been to anybody. And I feel safe here. And that says a lot coming from me. It takes a lot for me to feel safe. I would just say, for anyone struggling, one of the verses that I've always come back to is Zephaniah 3:17. It says, the Lord your God is with you. He is a mighty warrior who saves, and he will rejoice over you in singing and delight in you. And that is the verse that has been my rock. It is the verse that whenever my anxiety does start to bubble, it is the verse that I will sit there and people laugh, because I will just start going, and I will start mouthing it to myself over and over and over again. And it is one of those things that grounds me back and reminds me of, I am safe and I am valued and loved. And even if I'm not safe in a physical sense, I am safe in Jesus Christ right now. You know, he delights just in me. Yeah, he delights in the whole world, but he delights in Bridgette too. And that means a lot to me.